Good morning, welcome to Istanbul. The skies might be blue, but it is pretty fresh out here, not quite what anybody was expecting in Turkey. It's the second round of GP2 and the sprint race is coming up very soon. As you can see on the grid behind me, the drivers are almost ready, but let me just remind you that the sprint race is 23 laps of pure racing, no mandatory pit stop, and I can guarantee plenty of overtaking battles. But first, yesterday's feature race defines the grid of today, so let's see who took the points and who was drinking champagne on the podium.
We wait for the go, and let's go racing here in Istanbul. Great tyre smoke as away they go, and there's yellow flags right at the back of the grid. But a wonderful start from Pantano, and Grosjean gets up into second place right at the first turn, and we've got a spinner already, and it's one of the Arden cars back there. Down the main straight, Carroll has another little look again, pulls out to the left-hand side and the right of your screen. This time, can he make a stick in the turn one? Yes, he can! Maldonado has to lock up his brakes. He fancied a nibble as well. And Alberto Valerio, who was running in 5th place, looks like he's overcooked it, and his race is over.
That's not a nice, comfortable place to be for Alberto, to be honest.
Giorgio Pantano wins for the 6th time in GP2. Roman Grosjean second, Andy Zuber with the fastest lap, finishing 3rd.
I'm happy for the team, for everybody, because we did the job. We improved the car from Barcelona to here, and we see the result. We was very quick yesterday, we was quick on the race today.
I was forced on the grid, so I had to take at least 1 or 2 positions, and we did it. So I think we have a good procedure now. It's important for every race to start well and try to get as much places as we can at the start.
I'm very happy with 3rd place again, but in Barcelona in the 2nd race I didn't score any points. So tomorrow I'll try everything to score some points.
So this is how the championship table is forming for those drivers. Giorgio Pantano in the racing engineering car has opened up quite a gap. He's at the top, 8 points ahead of Andy Zuber, who with the fastest lap yesterday edges in front of rookie Roman Grosjean. He sits in 3rd place on 12 points. Alvaro Parent and Bruno Senna are tied on 11 points, slipping places after a disappointing race yesterday, and Sebastian Buemi sits in 6th place. But after today's race, that could all change. So yesterday's top 8 are on the grid, but to make things even more exciting, they're reversed. So yesterday's 8th place, which is Adam Carroll, he takes pole position, and find out what happens after the break. Welcome back to Istanbul. Engines are roaring for the GP2 sprint race in round 2. They've just gone up on their formation lap. As I mentioned before the break, Brit Adam Carroll takes his place on pole position. Not a bad start on his return to GP2. Next to him is Javier Villa, whose record sees him as a bit of a sprint race specialist. But for now, I'll hand you over to your commentators, David Croft and Chris Goodwin, to take you through the race.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning. Riding on board with Alvaro Parent, the winner of the feature race in Spain to start the GP2 season, and along with the man Kamui Kobayashi, who won the sprint race. He starts on the back row of the grid this afternoon, so it's famine or feast in GP2. But for Adam Carroll, the possibility of a 6th GP2 win, providing, Chris, he can actually get away off the line an awful lot better than yesterday.
Well, I think he'll be disappointed not to have made a great start yesterday. His first GP2 race start for quite some time. So you have to give him a small amount of leeway for that. But I think, you know, it looked as though he deliberately backed off at the tail end of yesterday's race to clinch that 8th place. He was running 7th, a quick lift on the back straight, and there he was in 8th place, giving himself pole. He's really all out for a win. His schedule is to just be here for this weekend and for the Monaco race weekend. So points don't really mean a lot to him, race wins do.
Make an impression. And that's what Adam Carroll will be hoping. He's just sure a shot talking to the iSport team of Timo Glock, now in Formula 1, but this time last year racing for iSport and winning here as well. That is Adam Carroll, your pole man. Behind him, Javier Villa, teammate to Giorgio Pantano, yesterday's feature race winner. Sebastian Buemi and Vitaly Petrov on the 2nd row. Karun Chandhok, nice solid weekend so far for him. Starts 5th, Andy Zuber 6th. Romain Grosjean 7th and Giorgio Pantano, yesterday's winner, starting 8th on the grid. And although it looks very, very hot here in Istanbul, the temperature's still chilly, so making sure those tyres are warm enough at the start is going to be a concern to the drivers.
Yep, air temperature 16, track temperature 33 degrees centigrade, so actually a good 10 degrees cooler, in fact, in both cases than I think most people had expected.
Nelson Piquet watching from the pit wall. Himself a winner here, the feature race back in 2006. But it's all eyes on the grid to see who can win in 2008. The British drivers alongside Adam, Mike Conway starts 9th, and Ben Hanley will start down in 17th place. Disappointment yesterday for Ben, who you saw spinning right at the start. Mike Conway finishing, which is more than he managed in the first race last year, but still out of the points and desperate to get in them. And it looks like Kamui Kobayashi just slotting in now, right at the top of your screen. We wait for the lights. 5 lights then, over the grid, and away we go. Adam Carroll this time does get away very well, but Andy Zuber, a really slow start, and he's been sucked up by the rest of the field already. But through on the inside goes Vitaly Petrov. What a start for the Campos driver as they thread through turn 1 and 2, and a collision right at the back. Looks like Alvaro Parent maybe. The Kamui Kobayashi right at the back. Their race ending almost as soon as it started, and along goes Andy Zuber straight through. Spinning there is Jelmer Berman in the Arden. So already 4 cars out of the race, and we're 4 turns into this sprint race. The yellow flags are out.
Quickly, the grid there, you can see there, it's Andy Soucek there and Kobayashi at the turn 1, and it was Andy Zuber that had that very heavy contact with the tail end of Jelmer Berman's Arden car.
Absolutely, Alvaro Parent now running in about 16th place. Sebastian Buemi made a decent start as well. Javier Villa lost a place. Romain Grosjean up into 4th, started 7th, and there is the safety car. It's coming out. You mentioned debris on the track, and as has been the case in many a GP2 race in the past, first lap, safety car appears.
Yeah, exactly. This is pretty much, to be honest, what I was expecting yesterday, but it's generally the Sunday race where the drivers let their hair down, so to speak. And don't forget, this is the race with no pit stop. You've got to do all of your overtaking and passing on the track. And, well, we've seen it immediately, actually. A lot more adventurous overtaking manoeuvres. I think, to be honest, 1 or 2 drivers found it hard to overtake during the course of the race yesterday, and I think they viewed the start and the opening lap as their big opportunity. Well, big opportunity to run up an expensive bill with Dallara and pay for some new parts for their cars.
Yeah, they could be very busy in that Dallara factory as Ho Pin Tong was being pushed down the pit lane. That is Pastor Maldonado walking back. Adrian Valles involved in that tangle as well. Adam Carroll looks like he's come, he stopped. I'm going to say either come into the pits or he stopped out on the track. He got away cleanly off the line, but then rather got sucked up by the field, and Petrov came past, and that the BCN of Adrian Valles, who I mentioned, was out of the race as well. In fact, there's quite a few. Pastor Maldonado, Jerome D'Ambrosio, Andy Soucek, Jelmer Berman, Ho Pin Tong, Adrian Valles, Andy Zuber, and Adam Carroll. So that's what, 8 cars already out of the race.
Yep, and you know, that's going to damage quite a few people's championship hopes, to be honest. It really is absolutely vital to get something out of the Sunday race. You can have had a disaster yesterday, but you've got to get something out of the weekend. And yeah, 1 or 2 of those drivers really will be regretting that. Andy Zuber in particular, I think, will be gutted that he's not going to score anything today.
Yeah, especially when you start the race 8 points behind the championship leader, Giorgio Pantano, who will still lead the championship whatever happens in this Sunday sprint race. But by what margin? Well, at the moment he's running in 4th place in the race and on for another point score. Now let's see a replay of the start here, and Adam Carroll got away well. Andy Zuber got stuck right at the back there. Vitaly Petrov on the right of your screen comes through very nicely to take the lead into the first turn, and just as we were about to see what happened to Adam Carroll, they cut to another shot on the world feed, which is a bit of a shame. There's the tangle at the back that saw Andy Soucek and Jerome D'Ambrosio get stuck together, and this riding with Ben Hanley, as you can see, having to take evasive action off the grid there with another staller. And into the first turn, this is where the carnage really starts to happen.
Well, we get a great view. Ben Hanley will be getting a slightly worse view than us, so we're slightly higher up. But you don't really see a great deal when you're sitting as low as they do inside a GP2 car. Andy Zuber very slow off the line. You can see waved yellow flags, another staller there though, and the car's really just missing the tail end of that one.
Yeah, that was Ho Pin Tung, wasn't it, the staller there. There goes an Arden, a PK Sports and a BCN, so that was the BCN of Adrian Vyers, and then Jelmer Berman in the Arden, desperately trying to keep the car going but getting bogged down in the gravel. And Ho Pin Tung just listening to some words of advice from his crew. And that Pastor Maldonado's car on the inside of the first turn as the rest of the field come round him now.
The two PK Sport drivers didn't have a brilliant Sunday 2 weeks ago, did they, in Barcelona? A bit of contact. At least they didn't hit each other this time.
Yeah, well, from what I can see, they didn't hit each other, certainly. They can't blame each other for this one. But no, they both took each other out by the end of the sprint race. Yeah, you saw one stranded PK car, there's the other.
Look at those lines. I think Andy Zuber was pretty well locked up for about a good 100 metres there on the way in. It's obviously a very disappointing race for him, disappointing race for all of the drivers that are out, but who's done well in the opening lap? Well, I think anyone that survived it probably has. Looking down the order, one or two big gainers. Bruno Senna up from 15th to 10th. His aim certainly just to get something, get into the points. He had the pace to perhaps set a fastest lap yesterday. You only score points for that if you're in the top 10. So a top 10 finish for Bruno Senna would be probably all he could hope for after a disastrous day yesterday. But Vitaly Petrov, Sebastian Buemi, Javier Villa, they're going to be coming under quite a lot of pressure in the rest of the race from Romain Grosjean and Giorgio Pantano, because those two drivers are much faster than the top three guys in front of them.
Vitaly Petrov, your race leader. And we go back to what we were saying just before the initial start, Chris, about making sure the tyres are warm enough here as well, because going into that first turn, the last thing you want is to have your tyres fractionally colder than they need to be, and the brakes too cold as well, because it's and Fernando Alonso calls it the most difficult corner on the Grand Prix track here. Well, these guys are going to find it difficult as well, and if you go in there with the car not quite right, with the tyres, the brakes not quite right, well, you're going to lose your place at least.
It's a very difficult corner, that one, very easy to overdo it. It sucks you in and almost invites you to brake too late, then the road drops away and you just run wide. These GP2 cars running the hardest of the three compounds that they're allowed to use during the course of the year. Everyone has the same tyre, but for this circuit, Bridgestone bring the hard compound tyre.
Adam Carroll just looking on and thinking what might have been. This could have been his race.
It's not looking very impressed,
so
is he?
No, he's still not quite sure actually what happened. We know he lost places and was down to around about 4th by the first turn. But why he's out, we don't know. We know why this man's out.
We know why he'll be out with a few more races as well, I think. Leopard will never change its spots, but I think Adam Carroll, it looked, to be honest, as though he had kept his nose clean. He got a reasonable start, but he looked to me actually as he was going into turn 1 as he was losing momentum even there, so maybe the engine just died. Now they're going to presumably have to move Andy Zuber's car from where it is. I don't know why they haven't done that just yet, so we may well have the safety car out for a while longer.
I wonder, there was 3 cars down there, so if there's only one truck to get them away, it's going to take rather a while, isn't it?
Well, we've got 20 laps remaining. Hopefully some of them will be without the safety car.
Well, it's a Sunday morning, even here in Istanbul, where it's 20 minutes to midday, so they're entitled to take their time. But it is a sprint race, so we would like to actually get on with the action as soon as possible. 8 cars out already, to remind you. Adam Carroll, who started from pole, out of the race. Andy Zuber and his teammate Pastor Maldonado, but not coming together this time, having incidents very separate. Adrian Vyers and Ho Pin Tung and Jelmer Berman and Andy Soucek and Jerome D'Ambrosio all out of this race already, and we've barely had 4 turns of racing until the safety car was deployed. As we watch Bruno Senna trying to get some heat into the tyres, and tell you the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, so a job he needs to do.
Well, safety car driven by Bernd Mailander as fast as he can, still pedestrian pace really for a GP2 car. it is very difficult to keep the brakes and the tyres warm enough when you're travelling what seems like a walking pace in a racing car like this. The driver's moving left, right, weaving, but in fact it's long, sustained cornering loads that really get temperature into these tyres. You need to be jumping on the brakes to get temperature into them as well. But now race leader Vitaly Petrov just running into the final corner.
Well, just locking up his brakes a little bit, which meant the man behind him, Sebastian Buemi, had to do the same thing as well. Safety cars come in, and we can go racing once again. Down the main straight we come to start lap 4, with Vitaly Petrov leading them away from Sebastian Buemi. Pulling out to the left-hand side is Roland Rodriguez there, trying to get past Karun Chandok, who holds 7th place. Going into turn 1, well done to you, Karun Chandok, keeping out of trouble, sensibly holding in line there. Rodriguez just having a little nibble. Behind Petrov and Buemi comes Villa, Grosjean, Pantano, Conway, Chandok and Rodriguez and Nunes. That's now a 3-way battle there with Diego Nunes joining in, as is Bruno Senna, and hot on his tail, Luca Filippi. So 4 or 5 cars there. That might just indicate as to why he was losing so much momentum, Chris.
Exactly. Well, you can just see these drivers still feeling their way there, and Karun Chandok just about hanging on to his position there from Roland Rodriguez, and you can just see how slippery it really is. Many of the drivers just struggling for grip as their tyres are just gradually building up temperature, building up pressure as well, and these opening laps very difficult indeed on a restart.
Rodriguez extremely skittish there into that turn, wasn't he, as Roman Grosjean there just dives down the inside of Javier Villa, and Grosjean up into 3rd place. Vitaly Petrov hanging on from Sebastian Buemi, then Roman Grosjean, then Giorgio Pantano, and then Mike Conway up into the points now. Mike Conway running 6th place. That'll score you 1 point in this sprint race. End of lap 5. Barely anything between the leading contenders. Romain Grosjean sets a fastest lap of the race so far. Into turn 1 they come, and down the hill. Grosjean too far away from Sebastian Buemi at the moment to make a challenge, and they finally move Andy Zuber's PK Sports car out of the way. You'd think that was a bit dangerous to have all the men there on the gravel track while the race has been restarted.
Well, like you say, they probably ran out of cranes, and they're doing it as quickly as they can. But if Andy Zuber can get that far, I'm sure he's going to get his way, find his way past Buemi as well. The pace difference between those cars should be enough to allow Grosjean to get by, as he runs very wide there, just getting too close in that fast corner. Really difficult with these new GP2 cars to follow close behind.
And after running that wide, he's got Javier Villa right up behind him there. Maybe thought Villa was going to have a little look. Behind that, though, comes Roland Rodriguez, who's managed to get ahead of Karun Chandok. Karun Chandok now Bruno Senna trying to get past him there. Teammates, of course, and couldn't quite pick out the yellow and the red on the camera. There goes Bruno Senna now, having a little look. And further ahead, 2 teammates side by side, and that's Giorgio Pantano getting past Javier Villa. Bruno Senna doesn't quite make the move stick on Roland Rodriguez for 8th and for 9th. But Javier Villa in 4th place as they come past us now. Giorgio Pantano in 4th place, and had just set a new fastest lap, but Bruno Senna had beaten that as he crosses the line. Petrov, Buemi, Grosjean, Pantano, Villa and Mike Conway still the top 6.
Well, that's not a bad fastest lap for Bruno, having run as wide as he did in the last corner. We were just talking about how much harder it seems to be to overtake with these new Pro 8 GP2 cars compared to the old car. These that have a little bit more downforce, they're a bit more dependent on the aerodynamic downforce to give them the pulled off, but he certainly wasn't able to do it today. Grosjean, though, he's made a move on Javier Villa and made that stick. Giorgio Pantano has done the same. He's got past his teammate and moved up one. Let's see what they can do now.
In 5th place behind him, Mike Conway in the Trident, and they're all queuing up. Bruno Senna, fastest lap of the race, 1:35.932, as you can see there, as down the straight they come. Luca Filippi and Romain Grosjean and Sebastian Buemi now. Grosjean manages to get past Buemi and up into 2nd place. Well, he's made that stick very nicely indeed. What's happening behind there? Mike Conway right on the tail of Javier Villa. There goes Karun Chandok down the main straight and towards the pit wall. And down the main straight now they come. Well, Karun Chandok fighting away there. Bruno Senna behind him, and in between Roland Rodriguez, 7th, 8th and 9th the battle.
Fairly heavily there, and Roland Rodriguez backing up into Bruno Senna. So the three of them losing ground as a result of that, but Karun needs to get his head down, focus on the car in front. He's certainly got the pace to draw himself back up to Mike Conway, and he's going to drag the other two with him if he does that. 1.4
seconds separating the top 4 cars at the moment. How long can Vitaly Petrov hang on with Romain Grosjean hunting him down and closing to within a car length? Through turn 9 and 10 they come, and now down towards the fastest part of the circuit. Downhill, Romain Grosjean might just fancy his chances as they go over the crest now, under braking, down into turn 12. He's pulled out to the right-hand side. He's going to go round the outside at the penultimate turn. Can he make it stick? No! Vitaly Petrov just manages to hold on to the lead and squeezes by with barely inches between the back of Petrov and the front of Romain Grosjean. Great stuff.
Well, I tell you, Vitaly Petrov doesn't give up. He's a very difficult driver to pass. He really is. Very resilient to pressure behind. Good move from Romain Grosjean, braking on the racing line, and pressure again from Mike Conway.
He manages to get past Javier Villa, and Karun Chandok gets a bit squeezed going through turn 1, but Mike Conway goes now up into 5th place.
Well, Conway there sneaking past Villa. I think Villa losing out there again. Karun Chandok looking down the inside, and Bruno Senna trying to go around the outside of Roland Rodriguez. So this battle really a mess at the moment. One driver losing out as he tries to overtake another.
If I was Bruno Senna, I'd just sit tight. I want to be taken out unnecessarily. This is Luca Filippi now, trying to make a move on car number 25. Diego Nunes locking up his brakes into that left-hand turn and losing a place because he was carrying too much speed.
Well, classic scenario for that corner is to outbrake the car in front, but also outbrake yourself. It really is very slippery off the racing line here. It's not a circuit that's often used, and you can see that the racing line is rubbering in quite nicely. But if you just get a few millimetres and wider, and you're lucky if you don't.
At the end of the back straight, and that's a spinner, and it's Karun Chandok, who from time to time does just overcook it. And he wanted a solid afternoon, he wanted a solid weekend, but it's not happened. And that's Javier Villa amidst a whole cloud of smoke at the end of that straight as well.
Well, that was, as we said, a battle that was really turning into a big mess. And, you know, you advised Bruno Senna to sit tight. He did just that, and he's moved up 3 places. So that's what you get for being patient.
Bruno Senna, who started this race down in 15th place feature race yesterday. Let's just see what happened again, Chris.
So that's Karun Chandok making a move there down the inside of Villa. Pretty optimistic, just locking up on the inside, taking the 2 cars out wide with him. So he's facing completely the wrong way there, and a big wheel spin to get himself going again. Diving down the inside, it is very slippery, even on the inside off the racing line. And he just wasn't able to control the car, get the speed down enough to make the corner.
And Javier Villa, who you saw emerging from a huge plume of smoke, now down in 17th place. Karun Chandok down in 15th, and that incident has cost both drivers dear as you watch what happened from Ben Hanley's car. Vitaly Petrov still holds the lead though on lap 10, but as has been the case the last 3 laps now, Romain Grosjean closing right up on him on that back straight. Seems to have a car set up very nicely indeed for the flat-out part of this 3.3 mile circuit. And Romain Grosjean, Sebastian Buemi, Giorgio Pantano, Mike Conway and Bruno Senna, the top 6 at the moment.
On the road, getting a point for fastest lap will help as well. And it may well be what makes the difference between being a champion or not at the end of the year. Meanwhile, you know, it is a really great battle at the sharp end with Rodriguez
down in the back of the field, 13th at the moment in the only Fisichella Motorsport car still to be running. Alberto Valerio just pulls out to one side. He's battling along with Diego Nunes for 8th and 9th, and Valerio pops up a place.
Obviously quite difficult for these guys. They're great friends as Romain Grosjean again piling the pressure on the Russian driver Petrov, but you know, it's not going to be a surprise. He knows, Petrov knows exactly where Grosjean is going to try and get past him. He's a pretty bright driver. He knows what to expect, so he's prepared for that move. I think Grosjean has shown his hand too many times now, and Petrov can prepare himself. The ART car is extremely fast on that straight leading up to that section, and
what's happened to Bruno Senna? Well, he's had a coming together that has caused a severe amount of damage to that front right tyre, and I would imagine his wishbones as well, and the nose wing, and that is going to, well, yeah, you may well shake your head, Bruno. I think you realise your race is over. On course for a couple of points, fastest lap and 6th place.
Yeah, a weekend to forget for Bruno Senna. Weekend potentially to remember for Vitaly Petrov, if he can hang on, that is, for 12 more laps.
Bruno Senna out of the race and out of his car. And pretty furious, I think.
Yeah,
I don't speak Portuguese, but...
Good job.
Fucking dog in the middle of the circuit, man.
I think he's saying there's something in the middle of the circuit.
A dog. On the straight.
He's hit a dog on the circuit. So I think the unluckiest driver in Turkey would be Bruno Senna.
And Vitaly Petrov may be about to lose the lead. If that something on the circuit must have gone now, because Romain Grosjean and the rest of the field have managed to get past it, and Grosjean's managed to get past Petrov. He tried 4 times and eventually managed to make it stick, and there is a dog on the track. Well, yeah, there are a lot of stray dogs around here. The safety car is now coming out. We do see a huge amount of stray dogs, but you can't have that sort of thing happening in a, well, what is a Formula 1 Grand Prix weekend, and animals managing to get their way onto the circuit. Are there no stewards to try and stop this? There are no marshals that can see what's happening out there?
I cannot believe that guy's luck. Of all the drivers, it would have to be him that damages his car avoiding a dog on the racetrack.
Well, I can't believe that we've got a dog just happily running away down the track now anyway, making his way towards the paddock. You can see him in the back of your shot. He's down at turn 2 at the moment and might be feasting on some scraps from one of the kitchens. It's not just one dog, there's another as well. Oh, that's what happened.
Glad they, I didn't want to see that, to be honest.
I'm not sure that we will see that again. And Bruno Senna, an accident entirely not of his making, but there are enough people posted around this circuit to stop this sort of thing happening. And
like you say, it's not one dog, it's there's 2, so brilliant from the organisers, really good stuff.
yeah,
I have to say, the iSport guys often believe they are the unluckiest team in GP2, and they win races and championships despite their bad luck. Well, I don't doubt they're going to win a lot of races during the course of this year, and may well still win this championship, but it's against luck like that. That's a lot of damage incurred, that's expensive damage incurred on that racing car for nothing. They've done nothing wrong, and I must say, you want to be taking that up with the organisers of this race.
who owns the track?
Maybe you wouldn't want to take it up with the owner of the circuit. You'd find someone else to shout at.
That's a replay. I mentioned Javier Villa amidst a cloud of tyre smoke, and a much better look at his recovery from the accident that dropped himself and Karun Chandok way down the field. Still, we have the safety car being deployed. I'd like to think they've managed to catch the dogs by now.
Well, one of them's been caught, that's for sure.
Romain Grosjean, though, before the safety car came out, managed to take the lead off Vitaly Petrov, who, well, knew it was coming. He knew where Grosjean was going to make the move, but for once, just couldn't defend his place. And now, for a second Sunday sprint race in a row, we'll see Romain Grosjean starting behind the safety car at the head of the field. Let's hope he makes a better job than he did in Spain.
Interesting job he made of it in Spain. Let's just remind everyone the restart in the Sunday race in Spain. Romain Grosjean was leading, but wanted to try and get a gap on second place, leading into the final corner on the restart pushed wide, or pushed hard and ran wide off the racetrack, and was a bit over defensive into turn 1. I'm sure he'll have learned a lesson from that and will judge his strategy slightly differently. But yeah, that was where he came under some pretty good pressure and didn't respond particularly well. Now, Vitaly Petrov, as we said, he's quite a resilient driver when he's in the lead. Let's see what he can do when he's in second place.
Let's just pop down to the pits. Charlie's with the team boss of iSport, Paul Jackson.
Yeah, Paul, Bruno Senna was on a straight track there, doing pretty well, moving up places, and then a dog came on the track. Did you believe him when he said it on the radio?
I couldn't believe my ears. I thought that's what he said, but you just don't expect that. I mean, this sort of thing happened back in the 60s, but there's no way in this day that we should have that kind of problem.
I saw Bruno Senna walk down the pits and he didn't seem very happy at all.
No, obviously, I mean, not only is it taking him out of a good position in the race, but that is potentially extremely dangerous. Could have been some serious injuries. If it had bounced up and hit him in the head, you know, there were serious consequences. You know, people are going to have to look at this and decide what action they need to take.
And is there any damage to the car? I was having a look at it earlier and the front seems to be pretty damaged.
Yeah, some serious damage to the car through obviously no fault of Bruno's or the team. So again, you know, the organisers here need to look at that seriously and decide how they're going to compensate us.
Thanks very much, Paul. That was Paul Jackson there, team principal for iSport. Over to you, David.
Safety cars coming in. Thanks for that, Charlie. And we're glad to see that Bruno Senna, albeit furious, is no more wounded than that. Because Paul's right, it could have been a very nasty incident indeed.
Well, Paul mentioning compensation. Well, you can pay all the money you like, but you're not going to get your points back, and that's really the big cost of the afternoon for iSport and for Bruno, unfortunately.
But we've got 10 more laps of racing to come, and that man, Romain Grosjean for ART, has a victory in his grasp here. But he's got to start well, and it looks like this time around he's got a nice clear buffer between himself and Vitaly Petrov in second place. Over the line we go then, and Petrov a long way back. Then comes Sebastian Buemi and Mike Conway and Giorgio Pantano. And behind Giorgio Pantano, Mike Conway, Ben Hanley and Alberto Valerio in the Durango. Diego Nunes runs 8th, Kamui Kobayashi 9th, and Alvaro Parenti comes 10th. Number 12, Giorgio Pantano running in 4th place for Racing Engineering. Grosjean, though, already starting to streak clear. That's Ben Hanley in the Campos. British driver running in 6th place and up to the points now, which from a starting position of 17th, well, Ben wouldn't have gone to sleep last night imagining he might pick up a point from this race, I'd have thought.
Well, he will have gone to bed last night knowing he had nothing to lose, and you never know what you're going to get on a Sunday. And I think these Sunday GP2 races really are where the unpredictable happens. You can't imagine, well, you could never have imagined what has happened today. You would never have predicted that, and I think when you start where Ben did, you'll take everything as a bonus. He's driven well, he's kept out of trouble, and to score a point will be great news for him. He's got Mike Conway in front of him scoring a couple as well.
There's his teammate Vitaly Petrov. It's a long way back now from Romain Grosjean, and Petrov will come under pressure from Sebastian Buemi. Maybe not at the end of the back straight. Alberto Valerio, and there's not much between Hanley and the Durango driver, I can tell you.
Not too sure what Petrov's issue is. He's extremely slow on that back section of the racetrack. Now, these teams only have a certain selection of gear ratios to run in their cars, and often you get to a racetrack and you've got two options of a top gear to run, one long enough to really see you to the end of the straight, one slightly shorter. And there's Karun Chandok there making a move and making it stick on Kobayashi. Yes, he does. So a clean overtaking manoeuvre from Chandok, just about hanging on to that in the combination of corners. But I'm wondering whether Petrov's running the shorter top 6th gear, which is why he might be a bit on the slow side towards the end of the back straight.
It would go some way to explaining why Romain Grosjean was 3.5 seconds clear at the end of the last lap. The first lap that they'd completed after the safety car had gone back in, and the way it's looking, you think that advantage might just double by the end of this lap. Now, not close enough to get through turns 9 and 10 on this occasion, but down the back straight is where it's really going to tell. This is where these GP2 cars accelerate up to around about 180 miles an hour. Alvaro Parenti, further back in the field, running in 9th place, pulls out to the right-hand side of Diego Nunes. Surely the Supernova's got too much pace for Nunes here. Looks like a very clean overtaking manoeuvre, a little bit twitchy though under braking for Perez as Romain Grosjean sets a new fastest lap and was 3.5 seconds clear of Vitaly Petrov. It's now 4.8 seconds. Buemi now running behind Petrov, Pantano running behind Buemi, and Mike Conway just at the top of your screen there, running in 5th place, just a second down on yesterday's feature race winner.
Well, Perez did manage to make that move stick on Diego Nunez, just about hung on to it, did run wide, and here you can see a replay there, and Perez has got a great run onto the back straight. He's got the momentum, he's on the racing line as well, and running wide, following all the way around the outside, but he's on the inside now for the next corner, and finally clinches the move.
Yeah, great overhead shot there to show just how hard Perez had to hang on as Milos Pavlovic goes for a spin at turn 8.
Looked like his head was well and truly into the cockpit surround at that point, and you know, that's a long corner, and some of these drivers have been talking about how hard this track is physically because of the left-handed nature of that very fast and bumpy corner as well, and to be honest, it looked like that car just, you know, perhaps spun off as a result of driver fatigue.
Yeah, he's running in last place, 16th and last, Milos Pavlovic. Understandable on this anti-clockwise circuit, riding with Kamui Kobayashi down in 11th place. Karun Chandok, you can see right ahead of him. Kobayashi might have a little go here. Ahead of Chandok is Nunez, or ahead of Chandok was Nunez, and now he's just gone a little bit too fast into the turn, and Karun Chandok loses his place. So Kamui Kobayashi, without overtaking anybody, moves up a spot because Karun Chandok just overcooked it on his attempt for Diego Nunez, and that dropped Chandok back a couple of places.
Yeah, I think you've got to be a fraction closer than that to pull off an overtaking manoeuvre, and you know, that's what this third championship is all about, learning still. These drivers are on a development curve, and I think Karun needs to learn a little bit more about what's on and what's not. That is a very tricky manoeuvre to pull off because you've got to drive the car onto the very slippery section of racetrack off the racing line. You pick up dirt on your rubbery racing line, and well, that's twice his fault.
A little bit commonplace, unfortunately. He has a lot of ability and a thoroughly likeable man, but just needs to be a little more solid, a bit more steady, and then you'll find he'll pick up points and maybe do what Mark Webber does a little bit in Formula 1 as well, picking up points as they go along, and what's genuinely on offer, not something that's unachievable.
Well, he'll get there. He's in a good team, got a good environment around him to learn. This is probably the first time in his life he's been in a really competitive team environment. So, you know, during the course of the year, you're going to see more drives like yesterday's. He's going to really stabilise. He's going to get better. He can be quick. He can be really quick, actually, on his day. And I think you'll see that more often as he develops through the year.
Sebastian Buemi and Giorgio Pantano. This is the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And Mike Conway and Ben Hanley both in the points. The two end of the 23 laps. And it's a big if. We've seen a lot of cars out of this race here in Istanbul. Some of the teams saying it's a little harder to overtake in these cars than it was in last year's GP2 car. The downforce is an awful lot different. And look, Romain Grosjean, look how far ahead he is now of Vitaly Petrov, 1st and 2nd. It's only 7 seconds the gap. You see the Durango there of Alberto Valario having a little go on Ben Henley, trying to get round turn 9 and 10. But Hanley defending his line well, will come under pressure again, maybe down the back straight. But to go back to the subject of overtaking, it is possible still, and very much the secret to success of GP2 that there is more of it, but it's trickier, isn't it, this year in these cars?
It seems to be a little bit harder. It's always going to be hard on a circuit like this one, where the moment you go off the racing line, you suddenly lose a load of grip. But these are more aero-dependent cars than the old breed of GP2 car that we've had for the previous 3 years. So yes, overtaking does look to be harder, but it's not impossible. We've seen a fair amount of it today, and well, some successful moves, some unsuccessful, let's be honest. But looking at Valerio now, he's having a good afternoon, good recovery. Had a disaster yesterday, spun in the middle of the track, right in the middle of turn 8. It was quite an interesting moment, actually. Him today would be good, but it will have to come at the expense of Ben Hanley if he does.
On board with Luca Filippi, riding down in 14th place. Rodriguez ahead of him for the time being. Filippi trying down the inside at turn 5, and I think he's made it stick.
Nice
Coming
move.
out of turn 6, yeah, it was. Down towards the hairpin.
Bit of a fighter, and well, he hasn't really achieved a great deal this weekend. Yesterday, or today so far. I mean, battling away there at the moment in the positions he's in, not really what he would have set out to achieve before the weekend.
One of two Honda young development drivers in GP2 this season as well. Mike Conway the other, and Mike on for a 2 points finish.
There's too much by trying to overtake Sebastian Buemi. We've seen it's tricky. It does seem quite strong, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't he just? Making the most of his years of experience here in GP2. And this is 62nd GP2 race. He's been in it right from the start. Down this main straight to maybe have a little go at Vitaly Petrov into turn 1. He was a bit twitchy through turn 1 on the previous lap. Let's have a look. And Grosjean in the lead now, 8.5 seconds. It's amazing how Grosjean has just completely disappeared off into the midday sun since the safety car went back in 9 laps ago.
Well, the trick is to get past the cars in front as soon as you possibly can. Roman Grosjean certainly is. He's let rip with some really quick laps in the 34s, but the Campos and the Arden cars there stuck on the 1 minute 35 mark really. And you know, Roman Grosjean has been able to just reel off lap after lap and open up that gap, so looking pretty comfortable right now. And you know, there are a number of drivers that are out of this race that certainly would have been quicker than these guys and would have made life a lot harder for Roman Grosjean. Andy Zub.
So now, could we yet see a change in the order to the end of this sprint race as we enter the dusted? Giorgio Pantano at the back of that trio. Looks to be out of the reckoning for making up any places here, but Petrov knows he's got another, what, 2.5 points.
Side on at the end of the back straight last time wasn't an overtaking manoeuvre or attempt, just a chance to pile a bit more pressure on the Russian driver. Well, he hasn't got much more time to make it pay off.
In the meantime, this man, GP2 Asian champion for ART, Roman Grosjean, is on his way to a first victory in the main GP2 series, and it will make it 4 different races, 4 different winners in this 2008 season. In Spain a couple of weeks ago, he rather got the restart a little bit wrong. Got dirt on his tyres, lost the lead, defended excessively, and it cost him points in the end. Not today though. He's restarted superbly well. He's taken advantage of the carnage behind him, and Roman Grosjean wins the Turkish sprint race in 2008. His first victory of the season, and behind him, Vitaly Petrov hangs on just from Sebastian Buemi and Giorgio Pantano. Mike Conway comes home 5th to score his first points of the season. Likewise, his fellow countryman Ben Hanley picks up the final point in 6th. Then Alberto Valerio, Alvaro Perrin and Kamui Kobayashi, Diego Nunes, Giacomo Ricci, Karun Chandot holding on to 12th place. Roland Rodriguez, Luca Filippi and Javier Villa. Milos Pavlovic will be the 16th and last man home. And Ben Hanley, well done to you for picking up a point, for coming home 6th. But Roman Grosjean, many congratulations, and take the acclaim of your team and the crowd for being a race winner.
Well, good job, well done from him. You know, starting from 7th on the grid, kept his nose clean, as you say, dodged all of the chaos around him, behind him, massive chaos. You know, this guy is going to be in Formula One. He's a good driver, he's a good racer. He really is actually a very good racer. Just knows where to position his car at the right time. And I watched him in every race in the Asian GP2 Championship. And, you know, the guy just manages to find his way through all of the chaos. And he's very good on these reverse grid races as well. So, well, I know that Renault certainly have got their eye on him. They've got their hands on his shoulder, and it would be no surprise whatsoever to see him on the grid in Formula One in a Renault next year.
Many have made the move from GP2 to Formula One. 16 drivers have been associated with both series. Romain Grosjean showed, didn't he, last year by becoming champion with ART of the Euro Series Formula 3, that he can go on to take titles. He repeated that with a GP2 Asia win as well. And as you say, Flavio Briatore in the Renault team looking very intently, and he's with the right team as well. ART winning the first 2 series of GP2. They know how to guide a guy to the title, and we've been waiting for this moment to see him win a first race of the season. Should have come a fortnight ago, has finally come here in Istanbul.
Well, it won't be the last one, that's for sure. It's whether or not he can manage it consistently enough during the course of the year to challenge for the title. As we talked about 2 weeks ago in Barcelona and often today, the championship is all about having your worst day not too bad. And having a bad day and having no points is not what you want. I think having a bad day and hitting a dog is pretty bad. But at the moment, Giorgio Pantano's bad days aren't too bad, are they? He knows when to just settle and score a few points. 4th place for him was a very sensible and mature drive, a drive that you'd expect from someone that's been racing for 20 years. And, you know, Giorgio Pantano's experience in GP2, before that Formula 3000, the series that was the same was what GP2 was. Formula 1, champ cars in America, you name it, championships in Formula 3, karting. That guy knows how to win a championship too. So I think Romain Grosjean did extremely well today, but he's got to keep doing as well as this to catch up and overtake Giorgio Pantano.
Yeah, who goes on to 24 points at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Celebrations for Romain Grosjean, but there will be an awful lot of talk and investigation into just why a couple of dogs, and I have to say there are a lot of stray dogs in this part of Turkey, but why 2 of them managed to get onto the track itself. Not something you want to see, and let's hope that doesn't get repeated in this afternoon's Formula 1 race as well. Could have been far more serious, as Paul Jackson, the iSport boss, pointed out. There is the Drivers' Championship. Romain Grosjean up to 19 points now in 2nd place. Vitaly Petrov 12 points, big thumbs up in 5th place for him. Sebastian Buemi just chipping away there in 3rd at the moment. Andy Zuber didn't score points this morning in 4th place. And Mike Conway and Ben Hanley picking up their first points of the season. Adam Carroll with a point yesterday, but unfortunately what looked like a clutch problem forced him to retire from the race here this morning. And some of the drivers still to get off the mark, but we've only had 4 races and there's a long way to go. And a well-deserved swig of water before the champagne for that race winner. Is this where they have the drivers debrief without the teams getting involved?
This is where they tell each other how they should have won, and Vitaly Petrov saying, "Oh, you overtook me under a yellow flag." Obviously, light-hearted disagreement there, but Petrov saying, "Maybe I lifted off and you got past me." But clearly, touch and go. But clearly, Romain Grosjean didn't overtake under a yellow flag, because we would have found out about that already. The FIA very hot on that, very hot indeed on these young drivers, wanting to make sure that they know what they can and can't get away with. So no issues there really. I think just one of those incidents at the time. Maybe Petrov read those flags wrong.
Yeah, there's plenty of action from the stewards after Friday qualifying when the yellow flags came out. And drivers getting penalised, that's how hot they are. But yeah, that's the way to the podium, Romain. And you want to stand on the top step, my friend. The winning feeling that he might start getting used to in this GP2 Europe. Under a French licence, Romain Grosjean, today's race winner, and receiving his trophy, slightly bigger than yesterday's trophy, which he thought was just a tad too small for his efforts in the feature race. Vitaly Petrov, runner-up from Russia, and the Swiss racing driver Sebastian Buemi does get the egg cup for finishing 3rd today.
It really is an egg cup, isn't it? He doesn't quite know what to do with that one.
But they know what to do with this, though. This is the champagne. That is Romain Grosjean, his first win of the season. But Giorgio Pantano continues to lead the Drivers' Championship.
There you go, the GP2 Asia champion there. Romain Grosjean finally gets the win he wants. All the reaction from me after the break. Welcome back to Istanbul. Well, what an exciting sprint race. An amazing race for Romain Grosjean, who came from P7 to take the win, but not so good for Bruno Senna. Who'd have thought that it would have been a dog that made him retire from the race? Well, let's go back to the start, which a lot of people did have a great start, apart from 8 drivers didn't even finish the first lap mark.
This is a disaster for many people, and most of this was actually triggered off with Andy Zuber not getting away. Looks like he nearly stalled, just manages to get away. There's a bit of confusion there at the front, but the big people who got caught out were Parenti and Kobayashi. A little bit deeper into the corner, you see them just get tangled up with each other. You see them get tucked in, they get spun around, the end of the race. But as you say, some 8 guys getting knocked out there. Most of them at the back of the grid or the middle of the grid, to be fair, but Zuber there on the right hand side, seeing him get away very slowly, hoping Tung at the back there also stalled and left on the grid. Very dangerous. You see the guys now getting off the circuit at this point. 3 of them get wiped out. It's a little bit of an issue with GP2. There's a lot of excitement. They're all trying to impress Formula 1 team managers, but this is the end of the result.
And they all seem to try and get in front from the start, don't they?
They do indeed. They push very heavily, but you know, that's what you should be doing. You need to be pushing heavy.
Well done, Mike. We've got Mike Conway here. You came 5th. You got your first points in GP2 this year.
Yeah, eventually. You know, it's taken a little while this year, but yeah, it was a good race. Made a good start and trying to keep clean on the first lap, and just got up the inside of Karun on the first lap and then tried to defend the rest of the time. And then the safety car was out quite early, as you saw. And then after that, just tried to get a good restart. And after a few laps, just picked off Villa. And then, yeah, we came home, kind of an easy 5th.
Well, talk us through that then, Mike.
Yeah, you know, as you see there, defending from Villa because I passed him into the last chicane and I didn't get quite the best exit speed. But after that, once I was past him, I seemed to drop him quite quickly. And I think our times were quite competitive all the way through the race.
I think your lap times are quite strong, but that's going to be a good start for you and the team now, that maybe your season's going to kick off from this point on.
Yeah, the beginning of the weekend was quite difficult, but as the weekend's gone on, we've slowly chipped away at it, got faster and faster, and at the end there, we weren't too far away. So I think, you know, it's a good step forward, and we just need to keep it up for the rest of the year.
Well, let's take a look at Karen Chandok. He had a bit of a spin with Javier Vier as well.
Chandok just trying to get up the inside here. Tries to slip down the inside, just gets locked up, climbs across the curb. It's an unfortunate situation, but again, you know, it needs a little bit of patience with the guys. They've got to learn these things, and they do try and get a little bit too eager. Chandok just really has ruined his race at that point. If he had a bit more patience, I think he could have pulled a result off today.
Well, I think a lot of them are a little bit too eager, aren't they, on the sprint race?
I think just the sprint race is always going to have that excitement built into it, but you know, time and time again, sometimes patience is a virtue and it can count.
Well, Bruno Senna was having a fantastic race. He came right from the bottom up to 5th, but who'd have thought that a dog would have got in his way on the track? Quite dangerous, Mark.
It's an amazing situation to have, and in fact there were 2 dogs on the track, and Bruno Senna unfortunately come across it. Mike Conway just told me earlier that the dog ran out in front of him as well, and Senna actually managed to hit the dog. You can't manoeuvre at 150, 160 miles an hour, and unfortunately the dog took Senna out of the race. Big problem for Senna, no points for him, and a crying shame, but could have been very dangerous indeed. There you see there's a dog, and one of the only the dogs left, actually, one of 2 that got left on the circuit, but they managed to catch it in the end.
Yeah, I saw Bruno Senna and he wasn't happy at all, but we'll have more reaction after the break. Welcome back to Istanbul. Just to remind you that Romain Grosjean has won the GP2 sprint race, but we do have Ben Hanley here, and you managed to get your first points in GP2 this season.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to get off the mark. We had a difficult race in Barcelona with engine brake in the first race, so you know, I'm just glad to get off the mark, as I say, with the points, and hopefully we can continue this and improve in the next race.
Well, talk us through the start of your race.
It was a bit manic, really. I got quite a good start, and then I nearly ended up in the back of someone who stalled. So I lost a few places, and then at the first corner, everyone just kind of got tangled, and I managed just to slip through.
You seem to be having a huge battle with Valerio as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we went for a slightly different tactic during the race. We had less rear wing, so we were faster down the straight and had the opportunity to pass people. But it was also a bit tricky on the fast turn 8. But in the end, it worked out well for us, and it was the right way to go. So great effort by the team, and good result.
Give us a bit of an insight, Ben. You stepped up from the World Series into GP2 now. You find it a little bit more difficult, or is it coming to you?
I think with the new car especially, it's a lot more difficult physically. That's the first barrier I had to get past in the testing and in the first race in Barcelona. But since then, myself, all the people at Renault and the RDD, they've really helped me to push myself to the limit and improve it, and I feel good today after the race, so I'm really pleased with that.
What are you aiming for this season then, being as though it's your first season in GP2?
Like I've said a few times, my aim this season is to score points and be consistent, and then at the end of the championship, let's see where we are then.
And we're going to Monaco in a couple of weeks, so how are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I enjoyed it a lot in the World Series, the 2 years I did there. So really looking forward to it, and it's always a great spectacle to be there.
Okay, so you've got this race under your belt. Obviously, Monaco is going to be a big race for you. It's a big event, a lot of glitz and glamour. How are you going to go about that?
I'm just going to take it easy in the testing, you know. Here we had a problem in the testing. We struggled to get out for qualifying, and I think Monaco is going to be even more important for that. If you make a mistake in Monaco, you're in the wall and there's a lot of damage. So I'm just going to take it easy and just, you know, get used to the car, how it is out of the street circuit. And, you know, like I said, just see how we go. I feel like I'm improving all the time, and I feel like the team are improving as well. We're always making a step forward, which is the most important thing.
Thanks ever so much, Ben.
Thank you.
Let's see how that's affected the Drivers' Championship. I do know that Giorgio Pantano has managed to stay on top there. Romain Grosjean just 5 points behind in second. Sebastian Buemi had a great race coming in third, and third in the championship as well. Andy Zuber there in fourth. Vitaly Petrov, who we'll be speaking to shortly, in fifth. Alvaro Parente sixth. Bruno Senna, who had a little bit of a run-in with the dog, was seventh. And Kumai Kobayashi managed to keep a place in eighth. Vitaly, you had a fantastic race. Congratulations. How are you feeling?
Quite good.
Talk us through the race then. You had a good race?
Yeah, we have a lot of problem from free practice. I have a lot of problem with my steering column, and we find only yesterday night we finished at 2 or 3 o'clock in the night.
But you couldn't quite keep off Romain Grosjean though, couldn't you?
I can keep, yes, my position, but I saw the dog was on the track, and when it was 2 yellow flag, I released the throttle because I was afraid to not kill the dog.
We're hearing that there's a possibility that Grosjean may have overtaken you under a yellow flag. Do you have any understanding of that?
Maybe. But I don't see it to the right, you know, I see only the front when it was finished yellow flag. I know when I saw 2 yellow flag in front of me, I released the throttle and to be a little bit safe, and Grosjean was passing over.
So there's a possibility your team may protest this result?
I'm not sure. We need to ask my team what they do, but all the teams, I think, they solved this problem.
Thanks very much, Vitaly, for speaking to us, and good luck for Monaco. Oh, Mark, it's been a great weekend here in Istanbul. Looking forward to Monaco?
I am indeed. It'd be great to see these young drivers around the streets of Monte Carlo. I think there's a lot of excitement, but a big race for them, and it's a great day for the Brits. Mike Conway, Ben Hanley.
Thanks very much, Mark. Well, you can stay here on ITV4 to catch all the Formula One qualifying highlights straight after me. That's ITV4. And also you can catch the race live. That's on 12:10 p.m. You can catch Steve Ryder and Mark Blundell there. Remember, Felipe Massa does take pole. Let's see if he can do it again here in Istanbul. So don't forget, qualifying highlights straight after me on ITV4, and a big Formula One race at 12:10 on ITV1. Are you looking forward to the Formula One race then, Mark?
I'm indeed. I'm looking forward to see if Lewis Hamilton can do something on the track, but hopefully there'll be no dogs on the circuit, so let's make sure they're all away.
And Massa seems to be great here, doesn't he?
Massa's an expert around here in the Istanbul Speed Park, but Ferrari going to be strong. McLaren should be good as well, but here are a few rumours that they've got some tyre problems, so it should be exciting stuff.
Well, thanks for speaking to us, Mark. Remember, you can catch Formula One. That's at 12:10 on ITV1. But from here in Istanbul, gosh, what an exciting weekend. Who'd have expected dogs on the track? But it was Romain Grosjean that managed to take the win there. Vitaly Petrov in second, Sebastian Buemi in third. Don't forget, you can catch us in Monaco in 2 weeks. All the glitz and glamour. See you then. Bye-bye.